Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Retire Right with Epstein White. As always, I'm Brad White.
I'm David Epstein.
Dave, how are you doing this football season without the Chargers? You faring up okay?
Well, buddy, it's tough, native San Diegans that we are.
I don't know why I had to start this week's show with all that. I guess it's just something that's on the top of my mind.
Well, I was feeling really good.
As you get excited for another weekend, I'm certainly excited for our show today, but big football fan, and I don't know, for some reason I had to throw everybody else into the same bus.
I'm a man without a team.
Yeah.
I'm a man without a team. So.
Well, there was my unfortunate rant for today's show, but we're going to move on past that because we do have an exceptional show, as always, for you here today. Lots to learn. We have our Investing Smart segment, and this week we're going to be teaching you the difference between stock market prices and actual stock market valuations, helping you become a smarter investor. We also have our retirement alert, which is going to be teaching all of you fortunate enough to have a pension on all of the different things you need to be taken into consideration to make sure you do choose the right pension option.
Hey, and that's what we're going to do. We're going to teach you those two great topics, but we have a couple others that we're going to share with you. And one of these topics is, should I be investing in a 401k? Is the 401k the right choice for me? Or is there something else that's better? And another topic that we're going to teach you about today that it's super important is how to build a retirement income plan. And that's really where we're going to kick the show off with today, Bradley, is how to build a plan that really resembles what you want it to do, customized to everything that makes you you. We're going to teach our viewers that today. So let's get started, Bradley.
All right, and welcome back to Retire Right with Epstein and White. It is time for our financial tip of the week. And this week, we want to teach you how to customize a retirement plan built the way that you want it to look. Dave, what a novel idea that is, right? Retirement actually looking the way that we all want it to look, right, for ourselves.
Well, most people don't realize that, this is all about you, and everything is customized to what makes you you, and how to maximize your Social Security, all that you've saved, Bradley. And gosh, you could take that and move that more forward in your retirement, so you have more money to spend while you're upright and mobile and able to travel. A lot of people don't realize that.
Yeah, and that's actually, I think, kind of where I wanted to take this segment too. That was perfect, Dave. Which is, if you're someone out there, you're not a retirement planner for a living, this is all probably very confusing for you. How do I know that I'm not going to run out of money someday?
Right.
How do I know what my tax situation is going to look like? How in the heck do I choose my Social Security, right? So there are tons of financial nuances that we all have. We're all very different as far as the makeup of all those things that I just talked about. As financial planners and as retirement planners, you certainly lean on our advice to help you navigate the right financial decisions. But what I don't think enough people realize, Dave, is it's the non-financial decisions, right? The lifestyle decisions that are just sometimes questions you may not have even thought to ever ask. You get so wrapped up in the financial nuances that you don't know, that you don't pay attention to the things you do know, which is, I don't know, Dave, you just threw up a good idea, which is, we call it front-loading a plan, but it means you may not have even realized you can actually structure your retirement plan to get a lot more money early on, maybe the first 5 years or 10 years, maybe go ahead and drop that income a little bit later on purposely, as let's say you're in your 80s or certainly 90s, because a lot of us just feel like we'd like to enjoy it more early.
Yeah, and Bradley, if you're going to do that, if you're going to front-load your plan so you have more money to travel and go back and see grandkids, whatever that might be for you, well, you're going to be maybe sacrificing a little less income when you're, sitting on the porch and not traveling anymore. But we also need to be mindful later in life, what could happen? Well, a health issue could happen, right? And so if we've used a lot of our funds early in retirement, are we prepared for that fourth quarter of our life? What happens later in retirement, Bradley?
Yeah.
When life might throw us a curveball health-wise, and we need to be prepared for that.
And so the whole point is, when you build a retirement plan, if you can consciously think of these things, there are many strategies. There's strategies themselves and there's investments themselves that will help get this job done. What you want to do is still make sure that you can play out your retirement plan through your 80s and through your 90s, right? You want to make sure that you can't outlive your money. So you want to purposely structure certain things where, yes, you can spend more of your money early on and enjoy more of your money early on, as you put it, Dave, while we're still healthier, right? While we still maybe feel like traveling and want to do more of those things. But if you're going to employ a strategy like this front loading of your plan, you definitely want to make sure you take care of unexpected healthcare costs, which is a reason income might need to go up in those later years. There are certainly things like inflation to take into consideration. There are things like market volatility, and there are things like your taxes that you need to take into consideration as far as how you do these things. But I just want to make you aware, right? We just want to make you aware that we want you to articulate what you want in layman's terms, right? Keep it simple. Tell your financial planners, guys, I want to make sure that I have more money the first 5 or 10 years because I plan on doing more traveling. Or guys, I want to make sure that I can go visit the grandkids 3 times a year because they moved, across the country. Or right, there's different things that we all have, and your job is to tell that retirement planner just what you want. And our job is to help you accomplish that.
And Bradley, not all advisors, in fact, most advisors are really generalists, okay? It's really important that when you're doing retirement income planning, and at a minimum, you should be seeking out the advice of a fiduciary held to the highest of all standards to do what's, that's a given. But finding the right fiduciary that's held to that highest standard to do what's in your best interest, but one that aligns where you are in life. And so if you're getting close to retirement, Bradley, or you're already there, well, that individual who specializes in retirement income planning, they're going to help you ask those questions that you didn't think of asking.
Right.
Okay? Just like a doctor would do for you, just like a CPA would do for you, your retirement specialist should be helping you ask those right questions so you can get that plan that's really customized, that makes you, Bradley. Really important, I think.
And that was just one example, by the way. For others, you may not have the goal of spending more of your money. You may have a goal that's legacy-oriented, where you want to leave as much as possible to loved ones or charities. There are all sorts of goals that we all have. What we're really trying to make sure you understand is try not to get caught up in the minutia of every little financial detail. First and foremost, build a retirement plan based around what's going to make you happy. Then come seek out our help or a qualified retirement planner's help. We'll teach you all the financial strategies to make sure that we build the plan that maximizes everything that you'd like to get out of that. So see the number below or come to the website. Our team is happy to help build your custom retirement plan.
You made it. Years of hard work, investing, planning, and now you're here. The long-awaited reward you spent a lifetime looking forward to. But what now? After years of growing a nest egg, now you want to manage it. Use it to fund your dreams. Make sure it lasts as long as you need it. And make sure it leaves a legacy for those you love. So what do? Wall Street continues to be uncertain, and many conservative options have all but dropped through the floor. How do you maintain opportunities for growth without risking what you can't afford to lose? That's where we come in. We are financial professionals. From investments and insurance products to tax reduction strategies, estate planning solutions, and guaranteed retirement income you cannot outlive. You've worked a lifetime to get here. Let us help you enjoy it to the fullest. For a special free guide entitled 10 Things to Know About Retirement Income, simply contact us today.
Welcome back to Retire Right, and it's that time of the week where we aim to make you a smarter investor. This week, we're going to be teaching you the difference between the price of the stock market versus the actual value of the stock market. And this is really important for you to understand because really one of the major themes that we always aim to teach you on this show is how to make good, logical decisions with your investments over time, rather than maybe uneducated or maybe even worse, emotional decisions with your money over time. And it doesn't get much more emotional as far as your money and retirement moving up and down because of, let's say, a volatile stock market. So that's what we're going to be teaching you today, is how to truly understand what's going on. Now, one of the most popular questions I get is, Brad, is right now a good time to be investing in the stock market? However, even more commonly, what I really hear is, Brad, right now does not seem like a good time to invest in the stock market. And what I've noticed over my career helping people is that it doesn't really matter if the stock market's already run up a lot or if it's reacting badly and it's kind of panic time in the stock market. It always seems to be the case where people don't feel like it's a good time to get into the stock market. Now let's take a look at from the depths of March 2009. Okay, so March 2009 was the very bottom of the stock market crash of what happened in our Great Recession. And if you were to look towards the end of 2017 in our example here, so that's about 8.5 years. So from that depth, the stock market climbed dramatically. In fact, if you look at the S&P 500 and you include dividends that were reinvested, the S&P 500 was up almost 300%. Now, even more so than just that was that in 2013, that was the point in time that the market started to make all-time record highs. So in other words, by the time 2013 hit, it had recovered entirely from its peak before the recession. And basically, if you're just out there, kind of in the real world, all you hear every single day on TV or anywhere else is how the market's making another all-time high and how it's making another all-time high. And what that's causing most people to do, from my experience, is make you believe that the stock market, because it's made an all-time high in price, that it must be unbelievably expensive now, and therefore that it's due to crash, right? It's due to correct, and it's really causing a lot of people to miss out on some very good returns over the long term. So we need to understand the difference between the all-time highs in the price versus is something really expensive or is it in a bubble and therefore are we going to see a big correction? Okay. Now, when you take a look at the stock market, there is, and again, please remember, this is not kind of this mythical stock market, right? What we're actually investing in is companies. We're putting our money into corporations that we believe are profitable. And there are a lot of ways to value companies. That's not really what we're here to teach you today, but just a few key things that you want to know is we're really valuing companies based off their earnings, right? Their profitability, both their earnings now, their current earnings, as well as the projection of what their earnings and their profitability should look like in the future. We take a look at things like dividends they might pay you now and in the future, and again, a host of other things like maybe competitors they have or what sector or industry they're in. So again, a host of other things. But the point being is we're trying to find a good value for a company based off its fundamentals. And then as an investor, what you do is you pay a multiple of a company's earnings to try to understand its really, its fair price. A very common multiple is something called a PE, or a price to earnings ratio. Long story short, what it means is if you had a PE ratio of 20, that you as an investor are willing to pay $20 for every $1 of earnings that company has. So again, kind of the larger the PE ratio, maybe the more expensive you might consider a stock. But at the end of the day, what you're going to do is you're going to take the earnings per share a company has, you're going to times it by a multiple, and that's going to equal a quote-unquote fair stock price. Now, if you look at something like the S&P 500, the major companies, kind of the bigger ones, historically you'd want to pay about 17 times their earnings. That's been considered kind of a fair multiple. So let's give you a couple examples here. Let's say that S&P 500 companies were earning, just as an average between them, $125 per share. What you would then do is take that 125, times it by 17, and you would get a price target of $21.25. So it kind of says the S&P should be trading at $21.25. Let's say the S&P continues to rise and it goes all the way to 2,500. This is what investors go, oh my gosh, look how much it's risen. It's unbelievably expensive. I can't invest now. However, what if during that time frame the S&P earnings went from $125 a share to $150 a share? Well, if you took the $150 a share and multiplied it by 17, you'd get $25.50 as a price target. And that is the whole point of this segment. In this example, believe it or not, the S&P at 2,500 was actually considered cheaper than the S&P when it was at 2125. So again, there's a host of other things here. There's a lot of other ways to value a company, and this certainly is not meant to tell you that right now is a good time to get in the stock market or that it's a bad time. What we're really just trying to teach you is really the difference between how it's actually valued versus just hearing about the price of the market or Dow or S&P reaching a new high, causing you to make bad or illogical or emotional decisions. So there's a host of things you need to consider when choosing your portfolio. You'll take a look at the number on the screen or our website. Give us a call. We'll be happy to help build your personal portfolio as well. All right, welcome back to Retire Right. Right now it's time for our weekly retirement alert. Unfortunately, it's a dying breed, but there are many of you that still are getting offered a pension, whether it's from your private corporation, whether it's from a government or a municipality that you work for. Again, unfortunately, not as many of us have this decision to make, but there are a lot of you that have to make a decision on how to choose the pension you're going to receive. And Dave, I got to tell you, this is definitely going to be one of the biggest decisions that you will make in your retirement. A pension's a huge deal.
Yeah, this is big, folks. You want to get this right the first time, and especially if you're married, if you have a spouse at home that you want to be thinking about, he or she is going to want to know how you make this election. Because if, God forbid, if you didn't make it home one night, does this pension continue for that loved one, for that spouse? And at what percentage, Bradley? 100%, 50%?
Well, let alone if you make the wrong decision, your spouse may make you hear about it here for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of reasons you want to take your spouse into consideration there. So all kidding aside, here's a couple things, very important things that you'll want to consider to make sure you choose the right option for your pension. First and foremost, they're typically going to offer you a lump sum or a monthly income option for the rest of your life, right? So that's the major first decision that you're going to make. And you really want to understand which one's a better deal if I just look at this in a vacuum. Well, the way you do that is by using what's called a withdrawal rate. Okay, a withdrawal rate lets you know in general in retirement what percentage of your money you can pull out every month to make sure you don't run out of money someday. Okay, and we have an image behind us that kind of shows a general withdrawal rates, kind of a calculation that lets you understand exactly how important a withdrawal rate is. But as a general rule of thumb, somewhere around a 4% withdrawal rate is kind of the benchmark for a good deal or not. So let me give you an example. Let's say that your company offered you a $500,000 lump sum that you could roll into your IRA, or they offered you $2,000 a month for the rest of your life. We want to know what's a better deal. Well, if you were to receive $2,000 a month or $24,000 a year, that's kind of like a 4.8% withdrawal rate, okay? Which is actually a pretty good deal in a vacuum, Dave.
Yeah, absolutely. 4.8, especially if that continued for your life and if you were married for your spouse's life.
Because essentially what that means is if you took that $500,000 and you wanted to start pulling money off of it, you'd have to pull 4.8% out of it to get the same $2,000 a month. And in today's low interest rates and how long we're all living, you might run out of money someday. Whereas if you took the income option from again, your employer, then you know that is going to be guaranteed for your life. But then that's where the other options lie.
Right.
There's going to be options where it's just guaranteed for your life only, which means, God forbid, you pass away immediately, there is no remainder for your beneficiaries. Or they might give you a little bit less income than $2,000 per month in our example, but it's not just guaranteed for your life, it might be guaranteed for your spouse's entire life. It's usually pretty rare that it goes beyond our spouses. There are a few other pensions where you might even be able to name kids as some sort of beneficiary for that. So just right off the bat, you really want to make sure, is the pension in a vacuum a really good deal one way or another, right?
Yeah, but it's just not, it's certainly everything about income in retirement, folks. Income, income, income. Really, those are the three most important words in retirement income planning. But we also have other needs. We have liquidity concerns. So if I was lacking liquidity in my whole plan, I owned, let's say I had my home and maybe I was fortunate to have a rental property, but I didn't have a lot in savings or a lot in retirement plans. That's where I might want to take that lump sum, Bradley, and roll it over to an IRA, which now gives me control of that money and brings that money, that $500,000, into my estate.
Yeah.
And there's a host of benefits that come with that, folks.
That's perfectly said. You have to understand, again, rule one is what the pension looks like in a vacuum, but the next rule is just how does it fit in with everything else that makes you you? The opposite scenario could be maybe I have huge amounts of 401k savings and everything else, and so I already have a lot of liquidity, but I don't have any income anywhere else. So the opposite scenario
absolutely.
would be that other person would actually choose the income option because they do have liquidity somewhere else. So we certainly take a lot of things like that into consideration. Of course, you want to take things like your own health concerns or lack of concerns into consideration. God forbid you didn't have a long life expectancy, you probably want to take the lump sum. Or if everybody in your family's lived till 100, you might err on the side of taking the income option. The health of your corporation or whoever's guaranteeing that pension, right? So we mentioned that, yes, it's guaranteed for your life, but by whom? Okay, so we've unfortunately had some circumstances and clients in the
Talk
past.
to some pilots about this. Sorry, my friends out there, my pilot clients, boy, they took it on the chin. When the debacle of '08 and a lot of pensions with these airlines, they didn't last, and they're getting maybe 30 cents on the dollar at most, Bradley.
So, this pension decision is a huge one. It could really potentially make or break the viability of your long-term retirement plan. Fortunately, we've already done all the work. This is something we've helped hundreds of people do before. If you have this pension decision to make, let's make sure you get it right the first time. Give our office a call, come to our website. We'll be happy to help you make it. Social Security is something that impacts almost all of our retirement plans, and it's incredibly complex to learn all of the rules, all the strategies, all the options, not to mention how it implicates your taxes or investments and everything else in your retirement plan. Here at Epstein White, we are experts in how to navigate through this difficult Social Security conversation, and we have an incredible team ready to help you on how to choose Social Security correctly. So take a look at the number below, come see our website, and we're looking forward to seeing you and helping you navigate through your Social Security decisions.
Welcome back to Retire Right. And boy, is this a popular question we get. Should I invest into my 401k? Bradley, we get this one quite a bit. And folks, it's a great tool. It's a great tool, a tool that you could pay yourself first every single pay period, Bradley. What's not to love about that? And to do it on a pre-tax basis to boot. So all that money comes right off the top, going right into your tax-deferred account, and what's not to love?
Well, I was going to say, right? I mean, so remember that the question here is, should I be investing in my 401k, or is there a better option? Because no matter what, saving, investing, planning for yourself, it's always a good idea. So regardless of how we finish the rest of this segment, saving somewhere is always a good idea. Our segment is just, is it the best idea to do it in a 401k, Dave, or are there better options? So first, let's talk about the good things about a 401k. You mentioned it right away, which is paying yourself first. The fact that it comes right out of your paycheck before you ever have the chance to kind of unnecessarily spend it and not save it is huge. Statistically, it goes a long way towards why people end up with enough money in retirement if they were good at making that election in their 401k many years ago. So that's a phenomenal thing right there.
Hey, how about if the company adds a little money, a match?
Free money. There is not many things in this world that is free money, and if your employer has decided to match any of your funds, that is free money right there.
That's like 100% return on whatever I put in, Brad.
Wouldn't you love to get a 100% rate of return on your money instantly? Well, when you put money in your 401k and your company matches you on the same dollar, you instantly made that 100% rate of return. So no question, that's the second big one. Now, then it becomes kind of a tax question from there, which is the traditional 401k setup means you put money in on a pre-tax basis, which means you get a dollar-for-dollar deduction on your taxable income for the year. So the higher the tax bracket you're in, the more valuable, right, that deduction is for you. If you were in a very low tax bracket, admittedly, the tax deduction's not as meaningful for you. However, there is this thing called a Roth, Dave, right? Which was started from Senator William Roth back in 1998. It was only on the IRA chassis at the time, but over the last several years, there has now become Roth options within the 401k that you might have at your company, and more of these plans do have a Roth option inside of the 401k.
Yeah, and you folks, you got to check. We've talked to a number of 401k participants, and heck, they didn't even know they had this option. They were busy going about their workday, contributing to the pre-tax account, Bradley. But here they had this Roth option that, yes, the money goes in after tax, but boy, it grows tax-free forever, Brad.
Love growing tax-free forever. And here's the other great part about the 401k chassis for the Roth, which is if you did it on the Roth IRA chassis and you're 50 or older, you can only save up to $6,500 a year into that tool. However, if you're lucky enough to have the Roth option in your 401k plan, you could save as much as $24,000 a year into the Roth. So the 401k chassis allows you to get even more tax-free dollars.
Yeah, and 24,000 folks, if you're 50 and older, you get the 18,000, and if you're over 50, there's the $6,000 catch-up that Bradley was referring to. Under age 50, 18,000 is what you can put in, but you can put all of that into Roth, okay? Where outside of in a Roth IRA, you can only put, if you're over age 50, 6,500. Under age 50, only 5,500. So it explodes inside your 401k to a much greater number.
Sure, so that's another advantage of the 401k part of all this. The downsides of a 401k, for the most part, is just the fact that you're limited to the amount of choices, right? Your company might give you 10 or 20 different mutual funds. Not to say they're good or bad, et cetera, but it's just limited, right? There's a universe of investment
Right,
options
right.
out there. And when you do save into your 401k, you only get to choose from those choices. Oftentimes, you don't get to hire professional help that gets to monitor and change those investment decisions over time. Again, not that that's necessarily automatically good or bad. It just means you are restricted, okay? So now the bottom line kind of becomes, where do I save my money? One final consideration is that everything in your 401k, whether it's traditional or the Roth, you don't want to touch that money before the age 59 and a half. Otherwise, you won't just have tax implications if there are any. You'll have an extra 10% penalty from the IRS. So the bottom line is, let's say that you wanted to save $12,000 a year overall. That's what you decided you could commit to savings. You may want to save some of your money outside of retirement plans altogether to make sure that you have some funds available before 59 and a half. You may want to save some money into something where you get a tax deduction, but you may also want to grow some money tax-free. You may decide that you want to put more than $12,000 away where the 401k lets you and something else doesn't. No matter what, here's kind of how I want to summarize everything for us, Dave. If you have a match in your 401k at a bare minimum, always, always, always put at least the amount of money you're going to get a match. That's free money. Then you need to take your tax considerations, your tax implications into consideration. You need to take your liquidity needs and if you need your money before 59 and a half into consideration. And if there's other investments outside of your 401k that are better into consideration. Once you look at all those, we are certainly glad to help you. Take a look at the phone number below or the website. We'll look at your overall plan and your goals and teach you exactly where the best place is to save your money. Hi, Brad here. Hope you're enjoying the show, Retire Right with Epstein and White. Taxes are complicated, and they only get more complicated as you're heading into retirement. But there are a lot of strategies, a lot of tips, a lot of things that us as a firm that we do all the time to help you minimize your tax situation as you're heading into retirement. So take a look at the number below, give us a call, come to our website, and come and see us. And we are happy to teach you all the things you need to know in order to minimize your taxes in retirement.
Hey, another great show this week. Bradley, a lot of great information.
It was. You know what? We learned a lot today. We certainly hope that you learned a lot and you found a lot of value off of what we were able to teach you today. And just please make sure that you stay tuned each and every week, same time, because every week we're going to bring you something new, Dave, to give you the best shot to...
Every week. Stay tuned to Retire Right with Epstein and White.